Great to be with all of you. You know, one of the things that makes the Global Inclusive Growth Summit so different, so unique, is that we're looking sometimes on the positive side of the coin of what's actually working. And that's why I love the title of this session. Because often the narrative, and I can be accused of this too, around crypto, is to look at it very skeptically and with good reason. But on the other hand, many of you in this room know there's about 2 billion people in the world that are disconnected from the financial system, right? They're not banked. And they face, as a result, a lot of fees, a lot of challenges doing transactions, getting access to money. And so here we have 2 companies on stage with me that I think most of you know that are trying to change that. And I think that's a pretty exciting challenge. And I'm eager to hear how we can do it and how we can do it with crypto. So Linda, I want to start with you.
Sure.
You know, Circle has been a bit like a rocket ship, right? Like this is a company that's only been around 10, 15 years and is developing these stable coins that are going to change the world. It's pretty remarkable. Mastercard's been around a lot longer. I think of you, if they're the rocket ship, you're like the satellite network. You're everywhere, right? But you're in this space too. Why and how and what are the benefits to customers?
Yeah, so thank you, Raj, and thanks for doing this, and thanks to Elisabeth, a great partner, and a quick friend. We have a lot in common, so not just in our personal lives, but in our professional lives. I think, as you said, Raj, we're in different spaces, but our spaces are colliding. And why is that? One, it's because we both have the same mission to democratize payments, to bring more people into the financial mainstream and to make it more accessible, more transparent, more secure. The second I'd say is this thing is so great because it offers choice.
Yeah.
Right? Choice in what's so fundamental is that consumers and small businesses will decide how they want to pay and be paid. And stablecoin / crypto / blockchain technology enables that choice and enables an environment of competitive payments, which, of course, we all love. And when we offer choice, everybody wins.
And I think, Elisabeth, for a lot of people in this room, they might feel like, well, I already have a lot of choice. You know, I pick where I bank, I pick the tools I use, but that's not the case for everybody in the world. I think about Venezuela and the situation there and the work you all did with healthcare workers. Maybe tell us a little bit about that as an example of where not everybody has choice and why the system without blockchain actually doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah. So these use cases are really not only fun to talk about, they're very moving to talk about. And they also underscore the fact that this is technology that's here now. It's not like we're talking about something in the future. We're still early, but it is absolutely, we are enabling aid disbursement, for example, is a fantastic use case to look at as an illustration of how this all works and how crypto can get it and is getting it right. So first of all, what we manage, just to explain that for 2 seconds, is something called USDC, which is the world's largest regulated US dollar token coin. So what that means is you give us $1, and then in exchange for that, we give you a digitized form of $1. Only ever worth $1. Really boring. Nothing speculative about this.
And you got the same thing for euros, too.
Same thing for euros as well. And now, because that dollar's digitized, it has the superpowers of the internet. So in the same way that, right now, you used to think about, Viola Davis was talking about this earlier, you had to make a long distance call, you had to think about the cost of it. You don't think about sending an email or a WhatsApp message or a text, you just send it. It works. You may not even know how it works, but it works, and it's getting there instantly, cheaply, securely, safely, et cetera. Money moves the same way now. And so the example with Venezuela is a great lens through which we can see that. So starting in COVID, the frontline healthcare workers in Venezuela were not getting paid and needed help. So in partnership with a certain consortium here in the U.S., and this is entirely blessed, by the way. Everything we do is with a regulation first mindset. We enabled to take that money, we digitized the money, turned it into USDC, and we were able to go right over the top into if I had my phone, I feel so weird when I don't have it. But anyway, right into their phones, they could get that aid. And so over the years, and we have a film on this, and it's really empowering because these people who even if they were getting, the problem for them also is that if they were getting paid, of course, the currency was fluctuating all over the place. So by having USDC in their digital wallets, which they could then go and either back with a credit card and use online, they could exchange it amongst themselves, they could go to a kiosk and cash it out. A lot of different ways of actually turning that into fiat money that they could use locally. They suddenly had access to the dollar, and they had access to something, therefore, that was stable, which is so moving for them.
It is, and Linda, you know this because you're president of the Americas. There's a lot of countries in your regions that have gone through currency fluctuations. Mm-hmm. And if you're wealthy, you can have dollars. You know, you can have an account in the US or overseas. But this has not been something the average person can connect to, is being able to access funding in other currencies and use that to hedge whatever their situation might be. You know, part of this comes down to the question of trust. You know, we titled this, you know, what crypto gets right, because there's an assumption that crypto gets a lot wrong. We've seen all the speculation, all the distrust for good reasons. Talk to us about how you as a company, which really in a lot of ways what you offer is trust, right? That's the, in some ways.
That is currency.
That's your currency, right? So how does a company that has a currency of trust work in the world of crypto?
Yeah, well, look, I think trust, as we know, it's so hard to earn, and it's very easy to lose. And when you think about trust, what defines trust for us is putting the customer at the center of everything we do, and then delivering for that customer reliably, stably, consistently, over and over and over again. And so for us, trust is everything. And we've had several decades in the market to facilitate trust, and our brand is now synonymous with that. But when you think about a company like Mastercard, we sit, the role that we play as an ecosystem, as a network synthesizer, we facilitate the flow of payments between buyers and sellers, and we do it seamlessly, securely, across 150 million merchant locations around the world. So when you're talking about the Venezuela example, it's a phenomenal, life-changing, transformative example. But if those individuals don't have a place to actually leverage the currency that they've been given, well, then the ecosystem falls apart, and then you lose trust.
Phone, and then what?
Yeah. So what we do so well is that last mile distribution, that acceptance network, the interoperability, the ubiquity. That creates the trust, the consistency of doing it over and over and over again, globally in a cross-border way. And so at Mastercard, we are very excited about the promise of what stablecoin can bring, because we see it as an extension of what we're already doing as a network provider, and we see the role that we play being a natural extension into crypto. And you know, just to make it real for everybody, just show of hands, how many in the room here have actually bought or sold cryptocurrency? Okay, so I see about maybe 7-8% of the audience raise their hand. Now, I bet if I asked you why you haven't, you might say, well, I don't know if I can trust the exchanges. I actually don't know how to use it. I don't know how to access it. And so what we've been doing is demystifying that and working with partners like Circle to help democratize crypto across channels that you're familiar with. So do you know you can use your card to purchase cryptocurrency? Do you know you can use your card to earn rewards on crypto and then use that crypto in any location where Mastercard is accepted? Do you know you could use our technology to transfer crypto and stablecoin across borders? And so most people don't. And I think when you break it down into these digestible ideas and you make it available and you insert trust, that's where the magic of crypto comes to life.
But it also sounds like not everybody's going to even need to know, right? Like part of the magic here too will be you just pay for something like the way you pay for something. You don't even know on the back end, like you were saying with a WhatsApp or a text, how it actually works. So it sounds like we have a vision, and we got big companies like yours and others that are working on it. We have use cases and examples. Why hasn't it happened yet? Like, why is it taking so long? I know it exists.
Yeah,
but what are you missing for this to become the thing that 2 billion more people actually use to access the financial system?
Right. I think the last mile is a really important piece. So we're B2B. We're not B2C. Finding last mile partners is the most important thing in many respects that we can do. And this is how, I mean, I feel incredibly confident in saying that this is the way money will move. So imagine you're meeting me in 1997 and I'm saying, this is the way content will move. This internet thing is the way this is the way money will move for all of us. But you don't necessarily need to know that. So if you're using, for a refugee who's using a credit card that is backed by USDC, they may not even realize that equivalent US dollar got into their wallet at 35% of the cost, at T+1, not 14 or more, instantly, securely, safely, and transparently, so that the organization, in aid cases, that has the money, that's trying to get it from A to B. This is not pallets of cash being dropped across borders. This is money being because it's all based on smart contract technology also, so it's all programmable. And the organization, whether it's a UN, for example, they can see it going from A to B. But then the question is, well, what do they do with it? And so there's a variety of partners they can use that, they can leverage it with. But over time, it just simply isn't going to matter. You'll have it in your digital wallet, just like you might have, your Mastercard on your iPhone, and you don't even have the plastic anymore because you're just tapping and paying as you go, and you don't know how that works. You don't know how does it get from my phone to the merchant. Like, you have no idea. It just works, and you've paid for that thing. There's no reason why, and this is in fact what will happen, is that something like a stablecoin like USDC will be powering some of these transactions behind, say, a Mastercard that's sitting on your Apple phone, on your iPhone or your Android phone, and that payment you have to make is going to go through. And the trust piece you mentioned is really important, because this is another thing we've spent the last more than a decade basically building trust through regulation, through making sure that it is safe and secure. We go in the front door of regulators and policymakers. That's really important, because for us in particular, we don't have a worldwide brand like yours. We have to build it, and trust is the ultimate currency. If there's no trust in that digital dollar or digital currency or whatever it might be, then it's game over.
Elisabeth mentioned regulation. How important is that to seeing this flourish? It seems like a complicated space. We're talking a lot about cross-border transactions. Obviously, this is something Mastercard and you know a lot about. I mean, this must be what you work on all the time. Where are we with regulation that could unlock this opportunity? What do you want to see in that space?
Yeah, I think many people have been craving some guardrails and some rules of the road around how to transact. And I think part of building trust is knowing that there's an infrastructure and rules of the game that everybody can play by. And if there's fraud on a transaction, or if there's a dispute, that there's some rules that sit behind that that protect people's money. And so again, for those of us that didn't raise our hands, if you can't rely on some sort of a framework or guardrails, you're less reluctant to participate in that ecosystem. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the regulation evolves here. I think, from our perspective, we're excited to work with governments and central banks around the world, frankly, to cultivate. And we're excited that the administration wants to bring in the private sector. Because in this space that we're talking about, innovation can only happen when partnerships happen. No one has it all solved and figured out on their own. So the opportunity to get access to the people that are making the framework happen, I think, is very exciting.
So on that point that nobody can do it on their own, I'm just curious as we wrap up, what has the crypto space and the more traditional finance space, what have they kind of learned from each other through this tumultuous decade or 15 years we've been through? Just quickly with you, what do you think the crypto world has learned from traditional finance? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what has traditional finance learned from crypto?
I mean, I think we are trying to model ourselves on the world's best brands that have really imbued trust and have earned it from their very large consumer bases like a Mastercard. That's really important, because literally, if in the case of money, if you don't trust it, it is game over. Yep. And so when you're creating a new form of money that is based on an old form of money, but it's a brand new version of it, and literally supercharging it with the superpowers of the internet so it can fly around the world like a WhatsApp message, you are, and safe and secure and all of that good stuff. We need to model ourselves on the best brands in the world to see what have they done to earn that trust. And so whether it's, this is one reason why it was very clear to us from the very, very beginning that you cannot do this and be taken seriously if you're not regulation first. Regulation actually breeds innovation, but it also, I'm not going to get on an airplane that the FAA hasn't blessed. I'm not going to use a credit card that, various bureaus that may or may not exist in a few weeks or whatever, but that I know are protecting me. And so, yeah.
What about you? What are you picking up from this crypto experiment that we've all lived through?
I think the beauty of this inflection point that we're in is that you have a willingness across an ecosystem to take the history, longevity, and consistency of financial markets and marry it with modern day tech. And really get the best of both worlds. And so the scale and ubiquity and cross-border nature of the work that's already been done to create our financial infrastructure can take a nascent currency and turn it on fire.
Yeah.
And so I think that is the
fast.
most exciting part of where we are in this journey.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to be worried about in the world, but it's great to see there are some things where there's real potential and potential to happen quickly. And this is one of those. So watch this space and join me in thanking Linda Kirkpatrick, Elisabeth Carpenter. Thank you both.
Super. Thank you very much.